Hello, this is Cuckoo, and this is Magnus Lidström. He's the lead developer in Sonic Charge. You might know his work from the Microtonic drum machine, the PO-32 pocket operator called Tonic, the Quo effect in the OP1, and many other products. I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to him about his work with music and software development, so I'd like to share it all with you, anyone interested in electronic music making, or perhaps you're an aspiring developer yourself. I'm right here with Magnus Lidström from Sonic Charge. It's a one-man operation, right?
Two
Two-man, okay.
It's my brother as well,
Okay,
Fredrik.
yeah.
Yes.
And in Stockholm, very close to teenage engineering, and it's no coincidence that Magnus has been working a little bit with teenage engineering as well. The first thing I know that he made is the Quo effect of the OP1. How was that? How did teenage engineering approach you with this?
I think actually they contacted me when they were starting development of the OP1.
Okay.
But at that time I didn't have time to get involved. So, and then I kept meeting them at trade shows and parties and things.
With your company, you've been at trade shows and stuff as well, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I've been in the business for over 20 years. Before that with Propellerhead software.
Okay.
I worked on Reason 1, Reason 2. One of my most well-known things I did was Malmström, the Malmström synthesizer in Reason. But we kept bumping into each other, and they were asking, should we do something together? And I thought, yeah, I had the OP1, I loved it. Let's do something with the OP1. Let's do a little thing. Let's do an effect, because yeah, I'll have time to cook up an effect for it. I had just released a plugin called Bode for Reason, a rack extension.
Okay.
And I thought that one should be able to fit in nicely with the OP1 concept. So I took it, and it had like 8 knobs maybe, and I took it down to 4 knobs. And then of course Teenage came up with the idea of the cow interface, and I think we did it in like 2 weeks or something.
2 weeks is like a really quick progress.
Yeah.
But you had all the code, and you had...
Yeah, still it was a different CPU, but it was quite powerful, so I didn't have to work that much on optimizing it. It was a fairly straight port, as opposed to this little baby, which was much more difficult.
The PO-32 is the Tonic, right?
Right, it's my plug-in Microtonic, and
it's also basically a sort of port, but a much more massive undertaking.
Yeah. This CPU in here is like a 10th of the power of the one in the OP1, and like 100 of what you have in a normal desktop computer. They basically they came to me and asked, should we do a pocket operator? Can't we do something based on what you have? Can't we do like a drum machine, because drum machines are fun?
Yeah.
And you have a great drum machine. Can we just take some sounds from that one into here? Yeah. And when I took on the project, I thought that Microtonic is my oldest plugin. I had it for 13 years. It ran on a 200 megahertz power Mac back then. So I thought 200 megahertz, I should be able to do, it took like 10% of the CPU back then, and I should be able to do a Microtonic on it. So I thought that I'm going to do like a full 8-channel stereophonic Microtonic engine with a full audio quality and everything. Put it into there and somehow figure out a way to transfer patches to it. I'm not sure if I even told Teenage I had that idea that you should be able to transfer new patches to it, but
how long time did it take?
About 6 months, with a few breaks. Wasn't that bad, but I thought it would take like 1 month before I discovered just how stupidly difficult it was to port the audio engine from. The main difference is a computer has floating point numbers, but this one doesn't. Okay, so it's a slow CPU, very slow, and it also doesn't have floating point, which ended up being totally impossible to do a straight port. I had to invent entirely new algorithms that sounded more or less identical to Microtonic, but in new ways. So code-wise, there's nothing that's identical in any way between these two. But sound-wise, they sound identical. So that was like...
So total rewrites for a totally different platform. And someone, I think it's yeah, someone told me that the platform that these are based on, I mean the main CPU is mostly used for power management.
Yeah, sure. Like the one you would have in a dishwasher or something.
Yeah.
That's a teenage way of doing things, you know.
That's really cool.
It is cool. It was fun. It reminded me of my youth and the Commodore 64.
Yeah.
When you programmed that, because you could actually calculate something that is impossible today. But you did back then was that you looked at the machine code and you calculated, oh, this is 1 cycle, this is 2 cycles, and then you knew that this little bit of routine, this little bit of code would take that amount of time.
Yeah.
So in here I've written all the code so that it takes more or less exactly 100% of the CPU. And that is guaranteed that it will never be over 100% CPU. So it's always right below, like between 90-95%. Because it's developed in C++.
Yeah.
Because that's my language. That's what I write everything in. But then with the constant view of the C++, how it compiles into machine code. So I always had the machine code right next to the C++ code.
Oh, okay.
So when I changed that, I had a look.
It's a real-time compiler.
Yeah, exactly, a real-time compiler. So I could look at the machine code, and then I also had the figure that said that this sawtooth oscillator takes like 30 cycles, and I knew that I have 1,000 cycles. That's my budget.
Did you sometimes have to even write machine code yourself, or
but very little.
Yeah.
Just a few. I mean, compilers nowadays are so good at optimizing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of stupid to try to do that yourself.
Yeah.
It usually just ends up worse. But on a few places, I knew that there are machine code instructions to do this and that faster. So I could inject that into the code and make it faster that way. And then I didn't have any CPU at all left for the effects. So I was thinking, how should I do the effects? Because normally if you have like a delay or a filter or something, it takes CPU.
Yeah.
So, but Microtonic has a lot of knobs and faders and stuff.
So this is the full software.
Right. So this is all the parameters that you have, and all those are in the Tonic as well. And the effects, because I didn't have any CPU for it, the effects are all implemented by just doing these various tweaks and turning these knobs in clever ways. So
the other pocket operators are based on some sort of audio processing, right? Mm-hmm. So these are actually not audio processing.
No.
So that's really cool. And I think one thing that struck me when I tried it the first time was like there was something that I always wanted in drum machine, which is play stuff in reverse. There's some sort of reverse-like effect there,
right?
And that would be very difficult with like an analog drum machine or anything, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, but do you know how I do that?
No, not really. I haven't. I just tried it a few times.
It's like you have this sound here. Okay, if you just turn up the attack sliders a bit.
Yeah.
You get that sound. Yeah. So I turn up all the attack sliders.
Yeah.
And I think I changed like the pitch envelope, and I do these various tweaks with the knobs.
Cool.
So that I get this simulation of a backwards thing. Let's see if we can play something. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you get.
Yeah.
It's just the attack sliders.
Yeah, but you get this immediate feeling of reverseness, which I think is so cool. Mm-hmm. Were you like prepared for this moment where you realized that there's no CPU left for effects?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't prepared for the moment I realized that it would like be impossible to do a straight port. The first I did was I tried to do a straight port, and I got it to play one oscillator. Okay, so here you have eight channels, and they all have an oscillator, a noise with a filter, an EQ, equalizer filter, a simple filter there, a distortion, and it's in stereo as well. But then all I got was one oscillator, like a triangle or a sawtooth. And I said to Teenage, I don't think this will work. And then being stubborn as I am, I sat down and I'm gonna try to do like this, as I told you, like this. I checked the machine code output, and I tried to module by module make new algorithms specifically optimized for this hardware.
Cool.
Then I got, in the end, four channels.
This is a serious drum machine.
Mm.
This is not, if people think that the whole Pocket Operator series is like, people tend to say that, it's like a toy or something. They're not toys, but they're very playful. But this has crossed the border and moved into the serious drum machine camp, I think. Yeah. This will be probably the cheapest drum machine. That it is also one of the best drum machines. It's really cool. It's very, very good.
Yeah. I mean, it's cheaper than the software. It's kind of backwards. And this one is called Microtonic, the software, and this one is called Tonic, but it's smaller. It's like and the other way around. I mean, most software, the way that it works usually is that they make a software that is an emulation of a hardware. And now I made an emulation in hardware of a software that's 13 years old, but it still sounds good.
When you got software that's that old, do you need to update them to be compliant with a new operating system?
Of course,
yeah. Is that a big part of your work, doing stuff like that?
Yes. It used to be even more.
Yeah.
It's been slowing down, I think. The amount. It could be because
operating systems maybe get more and more standardized.
Yeah. Things have settled, and I don't do iOS development. We haven't done anything for iPads or iPhones, so I'm not sure how things are over there. But I get the feeling that, particularly Apple, because Apple were the ones that kept breaking everything all the time with every release. They have been, easier on us lately. Yeah. But probably because they're focusing on iOS and probably breaking everything there. So, but it's been a few, like 5-6 years now have been fairly calm in that respect.
Yeah. So it gives you more time to develop new stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Some software that was made for like Windows 3.11 you can still run. Yeah. So they've been nice.
Yeah. If you go even back, you mentioned Commodore 64, for instance. Mm-hmm. Is this? I mean, when did you start programming?
I think maybe like 79, or something like that. I was 6 when I started programming. Yeah. It was a Swedish computer called ABC 80.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know it?
I know it.
Yeah.
So not very well. But
black and white screen. I think you got like 80 pixels, like or something or something like that. So it's very, very simple graphics, but still, my mind was blown as a kid back then. I hadn't seen anything like that. The few games that we had, you loaded from tape, and I had like 8 games, and I got bored of them fairly quickly because they were very boring. Yeah. So and then I started programming. I asked my bigger brother, who was very good at maths, and he already knew some programming, and he taught me like the basics of BASIC, and then I just kept doing that, as much as I could for the remainder of my life. And it was actually fairly fast. It was a 4-point-something megahertz, said 80. After that, the next computer was my dad brought home an Apple II, and the Apple II had good graphics. It had colors. And well, at least over 100 pixels. I don't remember 200 something. And that was I did a lot of games on that one, but it was very slow actually compared to the ABC 80. It was 1 megahertz, just like the same 6502, same processor as in the Commodore 64.
Did you feel like this lonely person in the universe making stuff?
That's what it felt like. Like the first years. I think it was like in 4th grade I found a friend that also had a computer. And had started programming it. So that was like I had already been programming for, I guess, 4 or 5 years when I first found someone else that actually also did some programming.
Cool. What platform were you on by then?
I was still doing mostly BASIC, but with some machine code. Yeah. Because that's how you did back then. You had everything that you started was like a basic program, and then it could load like machine code
Okay.
and run that machine code. But so the basic language was the operating system of those computers. So
I'm not a programmer by any means, but I had a Spectra Video MSX 728, which also had a cartridge slot for games that Konami made games for, and it had like a Microsoft Basic, and that particular version of Basic had this play command, so you could play 3 polyphonic voices.
Wow.
Just by typing play and then CD and then some note values.
Right.
And that was my first programming experience, and I couldn't even save them to tape or anything. So I actually took some pictures of the code with an old camera,
an analog camera,
a film camera, just.
Yeah, and you probably remember those magazines where you had the code and you had to enter that on the computer, and if you did like one number wrong, the code didn't start at all, and then you would have to look where is the number. It was terrible. I sent a few. I remember winning such a competition with something for the Commodore 64. So I kept sending my code to these magazines, and once I won something. I think I won like 500 kroner, but it was Danish kroner.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed because I only got 450 Swedish kroner from that. So that must have been my first ever published software, actually.
Yeah. What was it?
It was like I did it for doing some simple basic demos. So you could get like new control characters to do bigger fonts, and I don't remember exactly, like color cycling fonts and stuff with simple basic commands. So it was like an extension to the basic in 64.
Oh, okay, cool. Utility.
Yeah, utility.
Yeah. Good. Were you taking part in any of this hacking community back then?
Can't really say I did. I still didn't know that many. But by the time I got a Commodore 64, I guess I was in like 5th grade or something. Yeah. I had some friends in my class that also had it, and we shared the games, of course, and all that. I did crack a few games. I did do that. But
most of
they
them
were games that I borrowed, and I cracked them to be able to play them. I don't think I ever. Maybe it's a bit later. By the time we got into BBSs and stuff, then you could like download and upload stuff, and maybe I uploaded some cracks by then. Yeah. But I was never part of the copy scene or the cracking scene like that. I think by the time that really took off, I was so serious about making serious music software already.
So already then, you were developing music software.
Yeah. That was like one of my ambitions already way back with the ABC-80 was to do cool sounds, and I even got the circuit that's in the ABC-80. I got it separately, and I started building my own hardware synth back then. When I was, as I said, my older brother was very good at electronics and stuff, so he taught me how to. Yeah. He thought that because I was always dreaming about this wonderful MS-20 synthesizers and all that, and he just said that you can build them yourself. Eventually, that's where I am now. I'm building synthesizers.
It's so cool to have like someone to look up with. Mm-hmm. Me, I also had an older brother. Mm-hmm. He's always been better than me in painting and drawing and everything. Mm-hmm. So to have someone close to look up to like that is, I think it's a gift for us little brothers.
Yeah.
I can see in the frame now there is a device there, a black one. You told me a little bit about it before.
Right, so this was the first professional product that I did was I made an alternative operating system that you could, on a floppy, that you could run instead of the operating system that Yamaha made for that, because this is, now we're talking late 80s, maybe 88 or something. This was their first sampler. Yeah. And I think they stayed away from samplers after that for like 10 years because it was a disaster. Yeah. No one could use it. Yeah. It was impossible to use. And I had it, and I thought that, it is hard to use. I would like to have a better sampler. Yeah. But I discovered that the operating system that was loaded from floppy was all 68,000 machine code. So the same as I programmed on the Amiga and my first
Motorola.
Yeah, the Motorola circuit.
Yeah. Apple also used it, right?
Yeah, on the first Mac series, and
Yeah.
I had a Mac Plus back then, so I did all the development on the Mac Plus actually for this. So it took me 2 years, and then I had a new operating system called Typhoon, and I sold a couple of hundred of those floppies, sent them all over the world, printed manuals, and so that was my break into the music tech scene.
Yeah.
Through that, I got in touch with Propellerheads. They saw this thing, and I guess they were impressed and asked me to come over. And I started working with them on like the first recycle, and eventually like the first Reason. After Reason 2, where I did the Monstrum synthesizer, I thought that I'm gonna try once more to make a product all by myself.
Yeah.
And now, internet had happened, so there was there were means to distribute stuff that you build yourself much easier.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I thought, I'll do plugins. Like I didn't know anything about Cubase. I was using my own products, my own programs, my synthesizers and Reason. I had never used a VST before, but how hard can it be? I thought. So I thought, let's do a drum machine, and I did Microtonic.
Cool.
My thought was that, okay, I probably can't make that much money on plugins, so I should probably have like 10 plugins per year or something, really small, simple plugins, like a small little drum machine.
Yeah.
So I had this idea of a big drum machine that could, load samples and all these various synthesis options.
Perhaps inspired by Reason at the time.
Yeah, by Reason, and also by I had the or my band partner had the Electribe. That was because I was, when I did the Monstrum synthesizer, I had another suggestion before that, was to do like sort of like an Electribe thing for Reason. So I thought that I have this idea. I just tried to make something smaller, like a micro version of that, like a Microtonic.
Yeah.
And then after a half a year, I thought, this is taking a bit longer than I thought. I probably, my original plan was to sell it for like $40.
Yeah.
And do 10 plugins per year.
Yeah.
And so I decided that it was going to be 69 instead. So when I released it, it was 69. It was only Windows, only VST. And it took off, and it's been my main income for 13 years.
That is what I call a success.
A slow success. It wasn't like a big bang, I didn't get rich from it or anything, but it's been a steady income for so long time. And of course, I have other plugins as well, like the synthesizer, Synplant, and a bunch of effects, and I've upgraded Microtonic 3 times, so it's version 3. Otherwise, probably people would have forgotten me.
A few months ago, just before Christmas 2016, we went to see a live performance with Jean-Michel, and then we got the opportunity to talk to him backstage afterwards and present, at the time, this unannounced machine. And how did you feel like when you got to meet him and he clearly knew your software?
Really, really good. So that was like, honestly, that was like a life goal achievement to meet him and realize that he knew about my stuff, because that was like the first synthesizer music I heard as a kid, as a 6-7-year-old, and that really was what got me into synthesizers. Or even I think, as I remember it, I was asking my mother that I wanted to take piano lessons because I wanted to play synthesizers. Yeah. Because I wanted to be Jean-Michel when I grew up. But for some reason, all this time I've never really been in contact with him. I knew that he had bought some of my stuff, but I didn't know if he was actually using it, but he is using my stuff, and that was to hear it from him, like that, meet him in person. That was a big moment for me.
And he seemed to be such a humble guy.
So very friendly, so very nice. I didn't know what to expect. I was quite nervous. It's not the first time I've met someone famous, but someone that matters that much to you as he. But he was so humble, and he had the insights, and he knew he was asking all the right questions, all the
Yeah.
relevant questions. So
Yeah.
it wasn't any bullshit. He really knew the products, and of course he loves the teenage stuff. So so that was a good evening.
Very cool. Could you just go through your products a bit and show us how
Sure.
they sound? And
So this is a Microtonic, and it's an 8-channel drum synthesizer. All the sounds are made with the same synthesizer engine, so you can program anything from kicks to snares to some sort of hi-hat and other weird effects with this engine. It's optimized for the percussive sounds, of course, with a few different pitch modulation modes, waveforms, noise section, the filter, low pass, band pass, high pass. This one has a few different envelope modes. One of the cool ones is the clap envelope mode. So if you get this little yeah. And then it get mixed together here. Distortion, bandpass filter. That's basically it. And you have that times 8. It has a nice stereo mode on the noise as well. So you can use the noise. You can use the noise section to make like a sort of a pseudo reverb effect. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. The morph slider between two states.
It's part of this. I've had it for a long time. So it's this top slider over here. Yeah. So you can program. You can have one setting here, and then you morph that over to something else. So anything you make here will gradually change into whatever you make over here.
Yeah.
One difference is with the Tonic, you get this thing here. I'm using the built-in speaker.
Yeah.
You have this per drum sound.
Okay, yeah.
But in the Microtonic, this has always been something that affects all the channels at once. So it's global.
The whole kit.
You can actually load something in here, like a preset. The presets have you have this pattern engine going as well. So the presets have built-in patterns. So you have 8 sounds and up to 12 different patterns. You can load something else. And then everything morphs.
Yeah, cool.
This little baby here, it's new, of course, just released it on this NAMM show in January. And it's a smaller version of the Microtonic, 4 channels. And the fun part is that it's 100% patch compatible. So if you have a nice sound here, let's take the sound that we made. That's not a nice sound, but let's take it anyway. And you want to play with that on this, you can go over here and put this one into receive mode, and it listens on the microphone for this computer signal that you will hear now. So I'm going to place it close to the speaker. Yeah. So I'll choose to put it on button 16. There you go. Now I have that sound here on this one. And it works with entire patterns as well, given the constraint that this one is 4 channels and this is 8 channels.
Yeah.
So if we load, so now I'm hearing it with 4 channels only when I'm in this transfer window here. I can also click this button to rearrange the channels so that you get as little voice stealing as possible. It's not always 100%, but it tries to find the optimal order of the channels. So should be able to transfer this as well with the entire beat. have that there.
Can you back up everything that's on it in like one go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You press right and sound. Now it will transfer all the 16 sounds if you uploaded your own sounds into it, and then the 16 patterns.
Yeah, cool.
And so you can record that into your computer or your iPhone or cassette
anything.
deck, anything, and then play it back. You just put this one into receive and you can play it back. So you can do a full copy, also between units, of course, if you have more than one. And you can also send individual patterns. You press right pattern like that. That's much quicker. Now it just sends one pattern, so you can send that to your friend.
Yeah. Earlier today, Alvaro at Teenage Engineering showed me like a page that you'd made with some funky vector graphics and some sounds for the Microtonic.
Right,
you can just copy paste from a web page.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that something you've made?
Yeah. Together with my brother, as always. I'm the DSP guy, I'm the music guy, and my brother is like the visual guy. So everything you see, he's made, and everything you hear, I made. So that's how we divide our work. So what you're speaking about is Patternarium. So it's a web page on our site. Our web server generates lots of patterns. I have an algorithm and AI there that generates patterns, and our visitors can listen to these and just click the thumb up if they like the pattern, or thumb down if they don't. And the ones that gets a lot of thumb up, the AI takes those and generates new patterns from those. So it keeps on evolving, and hopefully evolves into better and better patterns for each generation. When we're at 50,000 votes, we generate a new set of 1,000 patterns. So we're at 23, so generation 23, which means there are 23,000 patterns in there now that you can listen to.
Yeah, cool.
And if you find something that you like, you can click this one here, copy. So you copied this.
And it's basically just a bunch of text strings.
Right. Yeah. And you can paste it into here. It's there.
Yeah. That is like a massive, big help, I think, for a lot of people. Well, that was long.
Slow attack.
Yeah. Like a massive help for people just to browse through good sounds, and then super easy to just get new stuff in the drum machine.
You'll never be out of inspiration with that one. The only downside to it is I think we sort of killed the motivation for people to do their own presets and upload those as well. And for us too, I mean, we in the beginning we used to release like a package like every year or something with new patterns for Microtonic, but since we got this running, it's been more convenient to just let that run and get people to choose what they like.
So what about the other? You got like, what's it called again? Synplant.
Synplant. That's our next biggest seller. It's been actually our best seller now for at least last year. But Microtonic and Synplant, those are like our flagship products. Okay, so this is a synthesizer. It has different user interface. Not that many knobs and buttons on that one. Instead, you have this plant-like thing here that generates weird noises. Now, each one of these branches, you can pull it out, and it will take the sound in a different direction. So you have the core sound here, or the seed sound, very basic sound right now. You pull out a branch, it does something to the sound. Okay, so you can, if you find something that you think this might, okay, I like that, so I take it, I click there, and I've planted that sound, and that's our new seed sound, and I can continue to find new sounds using this one as the new origin and explore a vast space of sounds with this simple user interface. And each of these branches, all of them are laid out. You see the circle here, the note names. So these are the different semitones within an octave. So you can also try it out on your keyboard. Cool. Or use it as a weird sound effect machine. Also the mod wheel pulls out all the branches simultaneously.
Very cool. I could expect there's like a lot of parameters behind this engine.
Exactly.
That are sort of randomized or sort of grown.
Yeah. As you pull out the branches, all these parameters are manipulated and changed at the same time. So all the parameters in this synth are continuous, and you can bring them up here with what we call the gene editor. So here's the DNA of the sound. We sort of almost deliberately made this page a bit non-inviting with the cryptic names of all the genes here. You have so what does the A mod do? What does A color do? But we wanted people to mainly use this as a different way of coming up with sounds where you rely more on what you're hearing than the knobs and the conventional parameters in a conventional synthesizer. It might look like a gimmick, but there is like a philosophy behind it.
Yeah, it looks very inspiring, especially when you kind of made different branches for each note.
Right.
Was like a super easy thing to do here, but it's like incredibly tedious process on any other synth.
Yeah, it's fun to hook that up with an arpeggiator going up and down. Okay. And then we can also use this little one here to rotate
them.
Yeah, so it will trigger different sounds.
Great stuff.
And then we have a bunch of effects. You want to see them too?
Yeah, of course.
So this is Permutate. Welcome to Permutate. My inspiration for this one was like circuit bend hardware. The difference with this one from a regular delay is that you can sort of hack it. So it's a hackable delay.
Yeah.
Down here, you're seeing the memory. The red dot is the signal that's coming in, that's writing to the memory, this audio signal.
Yeah.
The green one is the read position.
Yeah, okay.
What is coming out.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, these are we call them instructions. You have these typical machine code computer terms like AND, OR, XOR. When you do circuit bending, what you usually do is that you have these various circuits, and you just, by random, you try to see what happens if I take a cable from that leg on this circuit and put it to this leg, and weird shit happens. Yeah. And this is a weird shit happens plugin. So okay, if we turn on the lower bits of the AND operation here, we get this really crunchy, like bit crusher effects.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, the clock frequency is the rate that this entire machine runs in.
Okay.
You can change that smoothly, like that.
Did you actually create your own virtual hardware underneath this engine? That you're sort of emulating your own virtual hardware?
I am.
Yeah?
In this one I am.
Yeah.
It's a virtual machine that runs in this, and so this is actually the CPU frequency that I emulate this virtual machine running it in, and you can. I'm going to show you. I'm going to synchronize that to the beat, so it will run an entire cycle of the memory here in sync to the beat. So if we so we were talking about the AND instruction here. Now, this is what happens if you do and operation inside a computer on the read position inside a delay.
Yeah.
This is just, you know, what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But if you start adding out the higher bits, you get these effects.
And these are parameters that could be used from the sequencer in live.
Sure.
Yeah. So all of this could be animated or composed.
Yeah, sure. You can automate all of this. So that's just one of the various operations that we have. We have 2 instructions, so I can actually add something on top of this.
Yeah.
Like the mask here. That one is fairly straightforward. It just enables that one at the steps that I've turned on here. Wet. Stuff like that.
Very cool. Sounds great. Yeah.
You can load new firmware into it because it's running a virtual machine.
Hacked firmware.
Yeah. So actually anyone could write new firmware for it, but it's so obscure to do it, so that I don't think anyone will do it. Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe someone has, but we have done it. I've done it. So there are many firmwares to download from our web page. These are the official ones that I have here: Beatrix, Bender, Bitbox, Flakes, all that. You load it like you load any program into it, like you load a patch into it.
Yeah.
But it replaces like the software. So this is entirely new software written for this virtual machine. So for instance, Bender here is a wave shaper.
Yeah.
This one is some sort of granular thing.
Yeah.
The latest one that I did, there it is, Specular. This is the latest one I did. It's probably the most advanced one because it's running a complete Fourier transform of the signal going in, and then you manipulate it in various ways, and then it resynthesizes that. So you have these. You can do like reverb effects with it. It makes anything sound like an additive synthesizer, basically. Yeah. Well, these are fun to make. I just come up with something weird, and I've tried to release a few of these every year, free for our Permutate customers.
I think it sounds really high quality.
It's different.
Yeah.
Then we have maybe a bit simpler, like Bitspeak. So Bitspeak is inspired by toys, the speaking toys that we had in the late 70s, early 80s, from an American company. So it's heavily inspired by that.
Yeah.
The circuit, the speech circuit inside it. What this speech chip did was it was actually a sort of a way before MP3 compression and that stuff. It was a way to compress an audio signal, a voice. It's also the same technology that is used in mobile phones to lower the bandwidth of a voice signal. So this algorithm is resynthesizing voices by a fairly simple synthesizer. It's an oscillator with a format filter. And the analysis part, way back then, of course, in the 70s, this was something that you did on like big mainframes and expensive computers, and then you gave it a recorded voice, and then it probably took minutes, if not hours, to compress that, and it gave you the code that you could put into a ROM and have a machine say something. But this is Bitspeak. It's doing this in real time, of course. So it's an effect that you put on anything, and this is how a drum machine sounds. If you put it through the algorithm. You can turn down the tracking. Now it will run the same, use the same pitch all the time. I'm going to turn down the noise generator. It's funny because you can almost hear that it gets like a vocal character.
Some sort of format.
That's just because the algorithm is created and optimized for compressing speech.
Yeah.
So I have a second oscillator. I can raise the sample rate, the audio quality.
And then sort of the vocal style gradually disappears.
Yeah, because the algorithm isn't really designed to. It doesn't compress as hard anymore. So it will be more faithful to the input signal, as opposed to really shaping it as a vocal track.
When you start out with a project like this, do you do any research on how the compression algorithm worked, or do you just wiggle it by ear? And
I wiggle it a lot, but of course I do research. Of course, that's where you have to start. You have to start somewhere. I wouldn't say that it's a 100% simulation of this particular circuit, but it's like 50%, and then 50% is my own on top of that.
Back then, they weren't designed to do music.
No.
So you did like a lot of inputs that just didn't make sense back then.
Absolutely. You can control it with MIDI as well. Yeah. Like that.
Cool. You're heavily into music, electronic music. Do you also create your own music or ever perform or anything?
Way too rarely. Way too rarely. I mean, that's where I come from, and I used to probably spend more time making music than programming for a long time in my life, but less and less every year, unfortunately. It's sad because I don't get enough time anymore to do that, especially since I started raising a family as well. That's been taking a lot of time. I think especially that part, making music, is what I sacrificed with that. And I want to get back to that. So I'll try to find a way to start reserving time for making music and making full songs as well. Because nowadays maybe I make one song per year. Yeah. And that one song I use for like a demo track probably, because that's the only thing I made. So I have to use it for something else. So if you want to hear the stuff that I produced, you could go to the website and the demo tracks. Most of the demo tracks.
Like all the presets on the Tonic, for instance. Yeah. Is that your work?
That's my work.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's Bitspeak. Yeah. And then we also have the Bode plugin. That's the one that was that I did it for Reason as a rack extension first, and then I did it for the OP1, the Teenage Engineering OP1, and in that one it's called Quo. Yeah.
I think most people actually call it Cow. They don't say Quo. I always try to say Quo, but since everyone else is saying Cow, I just started gradually saying Cow as well.
It's an echo, all right? It's a Quo. It's an
echo.
Right. I don't know. That was Jesper's idea to call it Quo. I don't know what it stands for really. A frequency shifter as opposed to a pitch shifter pitches the harmonics of the sound with the same linear amount. Let's say we have a fundamental frequency of 100 hertz. The overtones are going to be 200, 300, 400, 500, etc. Yeah. Now, if you have a pitch shifter, you shift that up. Let's say you shift it up an octave. That's going to be exponential, right? So the new sound, if you shift it up an octave, is going to be 200, 400, 600, 800 hertz. Yeah. A frequency shifter shifts all those harmonics by a set amount linearly. So if you shift it with, let's say, 50 hertz, you would get a new sound that is composed of the harmonics 150, 250, 350, 450.
Yeah.
And now they don't,
They don't
match
up in a musical sense.
Exactly.
In a way.
So, and you get these weird alien sort of ring modulating sound from that, as you can hear now. Do it like this. Now if I play with this, it's not going to be harmonic anymore. So this is in the center of Echo Bode, and then I have a delay that goes around this frequency shifter. So if I turn that up with some feedback, now every feedback is going through the same frequency shifter, so it's going to go up like that. Or down.
I mean, every OP1 user can instantly hear that this has left some substantial traces in the OP1. But did you have to minimize it, or compress it, or reduce the CPU footprint? Or anything?
Not that much. In the OP1, there's as opposed to this one, there's a lot of CPU in the OP1. So it's if I remember correctly, it's running with basically the same audio quality.
Yeah.
It doesn't have floating point again, but it has a good fixed point architecture of that CPU, so it wasn't that hard to port. It was more of a straight port.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have all these knobs. Some of the knobs in the Quo affect. I think the mix and the feedback is connected somehow. So the knobs are macro parameters for this one, basically.
Yeah.
But in this one, I also have an LFO section that can be used to modulate, let's modulate the frequency like this. Of course, you can do that in the OP1 as well with if you route the LFO that's built into all the patches. If you route that to the effect, stuff like that. So I'd say it sounds fairly similar. Yeah. One thing I did add with the VST version is this smear knob. I'm gonna turn down that modulation. So this one adds like a reverb.
Okay.
In the feedback.
Yeah.
So it gets more and more smeared. Putting it on sync. Now you can hear the smearing.
Yeah. By the way, we're in Sweden. You can hear this noise outside. There's like every... What is it?
That means that the Russians are coming. So
it means they're testing the Russian alarm. Well, not Russian, but war alarm on a set number of days.
Yeah, it's the first Monday every month. Oh, shit.
They're going to attack on Mondays then.
Weird things like that. You can make like flanger sounds with it. Phaser sounds like that.
Yeah.
Frequency shifting is nice because the actual algorithm, the idea, that's where actually the name Bode comes from. This is a implementation of the Bode frequency shifter. Harold Bode was a genius. I don't know exactly when he did invent this, but probably in the 50s or 60s. And Moog worked with him, so Moog had a frequency shifter, a Bode frequency shifter. Of course, he used he did an analog implementation, and it's very difficult to tune the filters inside this with analog equipment as well as you can do with digital. So the hard part with frequency shifting is as opposed to a ring modulator. A ring modulator, if you add a ring modulator to a signal, say you have one sine at 100 hertz. With a frequency shifter, ideally you want to shift this, let's say 50 hertz up. You want one sine out at 150. But with ring modulation, you'll get 150, but you will also get a copy at 50. Okay, so it goes both ways.
Oh, okay.
That is like why ring modulators sound like ring modulators, because you get this mirror effect. All frequencies are like doubled and goes out like that. With a frequency shifter, you want to eliminate one of the copies. Yeah. And you do that with some very, very clever math tricks that Bode actually implemented with analog hardware. So in his version, of course, being analog, he couldn't really eliminate it as well as we can now with digital technology. But I mean, if you do listen closely, you will probably hear that one copy. Even with the digital implementation, there will be some residue of the other copy. But it's nice because all these various parts, they add like phase shifting and ring modulation and all that. Just many of these parameters are just controlling the operations inside the frequency shifter, and gives you all these phaser effects and the flanger effects and all that. Well, actually, the flanger is with the delay. Sorry about that. But the phaser effect and the like tremolo effects and ring modulator and all that are part of the technical solution to frequency shifting. Yeah. So, I've just found it when I did this. I just thought that frequency shifters were underappreciated. Yeah. Because there's so much you can do with them. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think it sounds. I mean, the way I got in touch with this particular sound was through the OP1. So how, in terms of your sales, is there like a clear winner? It's like
it has always been Microtonic. Yeah. Actually, up until maybe last year or the year before that, then Synplant took the lead. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's because of a decline in the Microtonic sales or if it's an increase in Synplant sales, but Synplant has been increasing. So, in a sense, when we released Synplant, maybe it was a bit too early for the market. Yeah. Because I'm just imagining here. I have no idea if this is the reason why we are seeing an increase in Synplant sales. But I guess if you want to have your standard, what I call a monster synth, there are so many options now, and anyone that's doing music on a computer has one of these, Serum or Massive or already. And then you want to add something different to that. You don't want to buy another monster synthesizer, really. Well, maybe one more, but you don't need 10. Yeah. And there are, I guess, at least 20 or 30 options that well-produced, good-sounding monster synths out there that are competing for the same market. So I'm thinking maybe the time has caught up with Synplant, and it was too weird and too different when I released it. But now it's been a fun thing to add if you already have the other stuff, because you do stuff with that one that you don't really. As I showed you with the pulling out the different branches and then just running an arpeggiator through it.
And also the market is getting more and more graphical. People expect some rich graphical interfaces. People are used to iPads and touch interfaces. And I think that true. And also people are less patient nowadays. They just want stuff to happen like this. Yeah.
I try to make products that goes like this. Yeah. Any way you turn the knobs, something should happen. Yeah. It should be a direct feedback of what you're doing. You should be able to hear that. Not necessarily be in control, as you've seen on Permutate or Synplant. I'm deliberately leaving you out of control to the happy accidents and the surprises. But something should happen. Yeah. There shouldn't be like 10 knobs that you turn and doesn't do anything. Yeah. That's a boring product.
Yeah. What's up for the future now? Have you got like a roadmap, or are you any organized like that, or?
We have a roadmap, but we change it all the time. Yeah. So something that it's been going on for a long time, and it's been out there for many years that yes, we are working on a new version of Synplant. A lot of people are asking about it. Yeah. We've been stupid enough to many years ago say that it's almost done. That big mistake that you shouldn't do. You should never say that something is almost done. Yeah. Now again, we're working on it. So after
it's almost done.
Yeah, it's almost done. Exactly. So,
but during this, mention some of that process is like you got this monster synth that is pretty awesome as it is, and then you got to where do you take it from there? I mean, should you just add on to it, or should you do like something totally different, but that shares the same spirit? I mean, it'd be very difficult to just build upon something specifically monstrous like that.
Yeah. Synplant has been very tricky. It's been easier with Microtonic, just add stuff. Microtonic is a bit more conventional. It's been a straighter roadmap with Microtonic. With Synplant, we've gone left and right with it and thrown in stuff that we just realized afterwards that this isn't really in the, as you say, in the spirit of the product. I spent so much time on it. I'm ashamed. Things that we just threw away. You know, after working on it for months or sometimes even years.
But that's part of R&D.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I design a lot of patches, and I love that kind of work, to design patches, but it's taking time. It's taking a lot of time. You know, tiny changes could be like the difference between good and bad. If you suddenly hear that the filter is at work, it sounds kind of not that convincing. But then you hit this balance when, I mean, 10 parameters are working together. Suddenly it's like, becomes this new thing. It's like cooking, I guess. Too much salt, and suddenly all you can taste is salt. But a good balance, then it becomes this new flavor. I think it's the same with designing sounds. Yeah.
I'm also designing sounds, but on another level, I'm designing the tools that you design the sounds with. But of course, that the way that I design them will eventually lead to specific sounds being made with them. As for the future, well, there's going to be more stuff. I can't say much more. Sorry.
Secret stuff, in other words, secret stuff in the making. It's going to be awesome. And software. I mean, you're a software developer mainly, but as we've seen with this one, super successful entry in the hardware ballpark, I'd say. I'm mainly using hardware. Of course, I'm using software as well, but just throw in a little card there and say, please make more hardware. I think this, what you're giving to the hardware community, is top stuff. I think Teenage Engineering is a great company to work with and do this with. And it's been our intention for a long time to do stuff together. It's just finding the right time, and eventually last year I was just like, I'm gonna make time for this little thing. And I thought, as I told you already, I thought that a month or something and turned into 6 months, and that's always happening. That's part of being a perfectionist as well. But I mean, it turned out good, and I'm happy with the effort. So and it's been fun, really fun to. So totally different in many ways from programming this. Many ways harder, but now I know it. So next time it will be easier, I guess. Next time it'll be like a month. 6 months. Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. I think this has been a very interesting talk for me. I hope.
For me too.
I hope a lot of people get to appreciate the work behind all the software that is coming up from this guy. This hat. It's hidden in the hat.
And my brother.
And your brother.
Not to forget.
He's not here, but he's...
he rarely is. He works from home, so... He doesn't live in central Stockholm, so it's a bit of a trip for him.
And for me, I'm always interested to know the road to how do you get into stuff, and when do you find this passion for what you're doing, and for you it seems like you found it at a very, very early age. It's like as a 6-year-old starting even then to program, and I'm very lucky. But that's really, it's really cool. So everyone out there, maybe you've taken some classes at school, programming classes, wondering what the heck you're going to do with programming. You could do stuff like this. Just if you find a passion, keep doing it. Right.
Totally.
Approved by Cuckoo.
Yeah.